The candidacy of Ambassador Olara for United Nations Secretary General demonstrates how nominating government's domestic human rights record can directly impact a diplomatic bid on the world stage. When a country like Uganda, frequently criticized by international observers for political repression, election-related violence, and security force abuses, puts forward a nominee, the selection process is instantly becomes a test of both state accountability and individual moral standing. Evaluating Otunnu's trajectory through the UN selection framework shows that while a bad domestic record creates immense structural hurdles for a candidate, international resistance often distinguishes between the misdeeds of the endorsing regime and the personal reputation of the nominee. A state's history of human rights violations fundamentally alters how its candidate is received by the United Nations Security Council, partially by Western permanent members like the United States, the United Kingdom, and France. When an oppressive government nominates a high-profile diplomatic, member state, and global civil society often view the endorsement as an attempt to blue-wash the regime's international image, using the prestige of the Secretary General race to distract from domestic abuses. Under the UN Charter, the Secretary General must embody the highest standards of integrity, making a bad home record an easy justification for a P5 veto during confidential straw polls. Historically, domestic political friction directly derailed Otunnu's early prospects in 1996. Despite broad international acclaim, the Ugandan government withheld its endorsement due to internal political rivalries stemming from the conflicts of the 1980s. When Uganda later offered its official endorsement in subsequent selection cycles, the government's controversial domestic record automatically re-entered the diplomatic equation, raising questions about whether backing the candidate would signal unmerited international approval for the ruling regime. When international backlash emerges during such a campaign, the resulting negativity is divided between the nominating state and the individual candidate. Negative reactions directed at the Ugandan government serve as a direct diplomatic critique of its state policies, aiming to deny an abusive administration a major soft power victory on the global stage. Conversely, Otunnu's personal background stands in sharp contrast to the government that endorsed him, having served as a prominent opposition leader in Uganda and as the former UN Special Representative for the Children and Armed Conflict. His global reputation was built on human rights advocacy and peace building rather than the state enforcement. This distinction allows diplomats to separate the individual's qualification from the regime's record, even as observers debate whether any candidate can accept a state endorsement without compromising their perceived independence. Ultimately, Uganda's endorsement of Olara highlights the delicate balance every UNSG candidate must strike when emerging from a nation with a troubled human rights record. A government's domestic abuses undoubtedly introduce severe diplomatic friction, increased P5 scrutiny, and skepticism from civil society. However, as Otunnu's career illustrates, a candidate's independent legacy of international service can provide a meaningful counterweight, allowing them to navigate the necessity of a state nomination while maintaining their personal moral authority before the international community.